Every time Nintendo makes something that's limited edition, everyone goes into some kind of a panic mode as if there's only like a 5-minute window where you can buy the product in question. So naturally, when Nintendo reveals some cool new things off for Zelda's 35th anniversary and Metroid Dread in their 2021 E3 Direct, the scalpers bought everything up in like 5 minutes. And obviously, that made a lot of people even angrier than my stepdad whenever I go through his secret movie collection. But if you ask my festively plump rump, I think everyone needs to calm down and be patient. If you sit back in your most controversial beanbag, I'd be happy to tell you why. Okay, so I know it can be frustrating to get excited about buying some goodies, only to find out that some random dads bought them all up and are selling it for like triple the price like an hour after the pre-orders went live. And naturally, whenever something makes us unhappy, one of the first things we do is try and decide who to blame for our unpleasant feelings. But in the case of limited Nintendo items, who's honestly to blame here? Well, if you put a gun up me bum and made me answer in one word, I'd honestly say nobody. You see, the first time I could remember something from Nintendo being scalped out the ass was the Majora's Mask new 3DS model in 2015 that almost no actual fans were able to get a hold of at launch. The same thing happened with some other 3DS models as well, but the next big thing from Nintendo that I could recall being scalped were Amiibos, typically the ones Nintendo figured to be less popular, like Wii Fit Trainer. And then of course there were the NES Classic Editions that, for some reason, Nintendo didn't think that many people would want to buy. I was pretty upset that I wasn't able to get a hold of a few of these things myself, but rather than getting mad at the scalpers, I put most of my blame on Nintendo at the time, because in my opinion, it's up to them to not allow these random dads to make a living off of their own product. Man, after all, any business that immediately sells out of a product and decides against making more are complete morons if you ask me. Hell, I even put more blame on the people buying from the scalpers more so than the scalpers themselves for enabling the behavior. But while scalpers may have caught everyone off guard in the beginning, Nintendo realized that nothing bad was going to happen for making a few more of all these popular products and decided to make an assload more. And the result? Well, it burned most of the scalpers big time, and while I didn't put most of the blame on them in the first place, I also didn't feel an ounce of sympathy for anybody who got stuck with garages full of readily available products either. There was literally no reason for Nintendo not to make more of the things that were being scalped out the ass, and they did just that every time in the past that I could think of. After NES Classics were scalped out the ass, Nintendo assured everybody that they'd make way more for the SNES Classic, and even straight up told us not to buy from scalpers. And even beyond that, they even went out of their way to make more NES minis for those who missed out on it the first time, because even though it is kinda cool to sell products for a limited time, nobody should ever have trouble finding it during the period of time where it's supposed to be available. And since there's assloads of examples that support the idea that Nintendo doesn't want to just hand money over to the scalpers on a silver platter, I've got no doubts that they're gonna do the exact same thing for Zelda's Game & Watch as well as the Metroid Dread Amiibos. Maybe not the special edition Metroid Dread game, but even then, I wouldn't be surprised if you could just walk into any store and pick it up for at least a little while after it comes out. Man, I saw a few Fire Emblem Shadow Dragons in the wild, and I wasn't even looking for them, so if you really want the limited edition Metroid Dread, then just go ahead and look for it when it comes out and you'll probably be fine. You know, if you wait like 3 weeks and it's on mute if you miss it. All I know is that the same kind of panic happened last year for Mario's 35th anniversary Game & Watch and 3D All-Stars, and everything ended up being just fine, just like I said before either of those came out. And I'm telling you right now, the same thing's true for this year's Zelda and Metroid goodies as well. At the time of this recording, Mario's 35th anniversary and 3D All-Stars have officially been discontinued for 3 months, and I could still find loose copies of both of those in stores at retail price without even trying. In fact, I could even find brand new copies of Mario 3D All-Stars for 2/3 of the retail price, and you know what? I don't feel remotely bad for any of the scalpers, nor do I feel bad for any of the enablers who spent way too much on either of these two things. Nintendo made enough copies to go around, they sold way more and made more money, scalpers got burned, enablers paid way too much, and we all ended up getting what we wanted for the intended price. Since the only people who got burned from scalping were the ones with devious or stupid intentions, I see no reason to blame anybody, cause if we could all get what we want for retail price, then there really isn't a problem to begin with. Due to a dingus chip shortage, the PS5 and Series X are hard to get a hold of long after their launches, so if you want to get mad about that, then go for it, I suppose. But personally, I'm in no rush to get either of those for myself since there aren't any exclusives that I'm really interested in. But since Amiibos and Game & Watches are like a trillion times easier to manufacture, then there's absolutely no reason why Nintendo won't flood the market with Zelda and Metroid's 2021 goodies like they did with Mario's in 2020 during the pandemic. Because even if they don't sell out on day one, we all know that they will before long, and yeah, the prices are gonna go up for all this stuff like a year or two after they've been discontinued, but if this stuff is readily available for the time that it's supposed to be, then that's on you if you missed the boat. And after all, people sell Nintendo cards from the 1800s online, but you wouldn't call them scalpers, would you? But anyway, that's all for today though, so if you liked this video, then you should check out this movie I made with Tom Hanks called Saving Private Ryan. You'll excuse me though, I gotta go buy a scalped copy of Time Cop for my neighbor Terry, because I totally forgot to pick one up all the way back in 1995. Later.
So I want to say thank you to your loyalty. Thank you for your support.